This broadcast, telecast, podcast, and whatever the hell else it is copyrighted by the Rad Network and the Rob and Steve Sports Show, all found at theradnetwork.com, and is for the private use of our audience. Any reproduction, accounts, or descriptions of this madness without the express permission of the Rad Network and Williams Broadcasting and Rob's Really Mean Lawyers is prohibited. So just don't do it. It's the Rob and Steve Sports Show, a show all about the thrill of Rob's victories.
Fly ball, center field, Coco, ball game, Western Division. The Oakland A's have shocked the Rangers and the baseball world, and they are the AL Western Division Championship. Unbelievable!
And sometimes even the thrill of Steve's victories.
From the top on down, here comes a 1-2 pitch. Red Sox win the World Series. 5-1 the final tonight. And the best team in baseball wins it all in 2018.
And the agony of Steve's defeats.
Legs together as Busted landing these. Oh, nice uppercut by Busted Douglas. Look at this. He's knocked Mike Tyson down for the first time in his career. Mike Tyson hits the canvas. He's in big trouble. He may not be able to recover. It's up to 7 and 8. He's not going to make it. Unbelievable. 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 Buster Douglas is the new heavyweight champion of the world.
Email the show at ras@theradnetwork.com. And now the Rad Network presents the Rob and Steve Sports Show.
With the Major League Baseball trade deadline behind us, 80 days until the World Series. World Series kicks off October 23rd. Still a little late for me. 37 days until the NFL season opens. Those are the two big ones, and there's a lot going on in both sports. The day after the trade deadline, and 2 days after the biggest trade of the season happened, Tariq Skubal had to defend the Los Angeles Dodgers yesterday, saying what every common sense, level-headed human knows. Quote, "Every team could have traded for me. I don't sympathize with people that blame the Dodgers for anything they've done. It's a winning organization. I don't sympathize with people that are complaining because the Dodgers do all the right things." Yeah, he's about to get paid a Fort Knox worth of money by the Dodgers. He always wanted to wind up with the Dodgers. He made that clear. You expect him to say that, but that doesn't make him wrong. My question for you, Steve, amongst other things that are lingering obviously there. The Dodgers got Tariq Skubal. The Dodgers were already the odds-on favorite to go to the World Series, win the World Series. Are they still then deemed as the winner of the trade deadline? Because they got the guy, and they're already the best.
I think so. They acquired the best pitcher in baseball in Skubal. They were already the best team. The other teams in the National League, we all felt that for them to be able to compete would need to go out and get Skubal. If, Skubal went to the Braves or the Brewers or the Phillies, how it might shift that balance of power. Still think the Dodgers would have been the favorite to win the National League, but that gap would have been closed. They add Skubal. Yes, they gave up some really good talent, but that's the advantage of the Dodgers. Not only are they spending more money on their roster than anyone, and with the deferred payments is where I go there, because I think officially speaking, the Mets have the highest payroll in baseball. But when you have a top 2 farm system on top of it, and that's the part where I give the Dodgers all the credit in the world. The Brewers, the Rays, these other teams have great farm systems, but they're never willing to spend money. And as they bring up these kids and they develop and they become really good players, they always ship them off in order to get more assets for their farm system and just continue to build that way. Well, the Dodgers, being as good as they've been since like 2017 or whatever, for the last 9 seasons, they're always picking in the back of the draft, and yet they're still able to go out and have, arguably the best farm system in all of baseball. Well, that's a tribute to their ownership and their baseball front office, that they invest in scouting, player development, and all of these other teams. Every team can do that. That's not an excuse for any team to not be able to compete. Every team can do that. I understand that only certain teams, owners are willing to spend the money at that top level, which is where the players' argument is. Look, if you're an owner, you're worth billions of dollars. Why aren't you willing to spend? The problem is most of these owners were able to get to that billions of dollars to afford to purchase a sports team by running a business and being, you know, fairly wise, and or you could say frugal with how they spend the money. And the sad part is that carries over into the sports team as well. It's an investment for them, where the real teams, I would say it's, and being a hobby is probably not the right word, but they can't view it as an investment other than what they're going to get when they sell the team. But if they're just worried about their net worth, they shouldn't be owning a team in the first place. But the Dodgers do it right on every front. You can't knock them. And they are going to change baseball. I believe we're going to get that salary cap and the floor. And I think a huge part of it is just from the Shohei Ohtani contract signing and going forward, I think is what pushed the other 29 owners over the edge.
Tariq Skubal, by the way, making his premier start for the Dodgers tonight. We'll talk more about that later. One of the reasons everybody that matters, ESPN, MLB.com, USA Today, your mom, all say the Dodgers won. Not only did they get Skubal, but what Steve's alluding to, they got Skubal. They did not give up a single major league player. They did not give up anyone of their top 5 prospects. They might have a hell of a farm system. They still got their top 5. And to rub it in, they added in another left-hander, Chris Bubik, former All-Star, a couple catchers, etc. Some people are saying the biggest thing the Dodgers are worrying about this morning is planning their parade route. Okay, well, we still got to play the games. Meanwhile, Detroit Tigers president of baseball operations, Scott Harris, blames himself for putting the team in a position to trade Tariq Skubal, but he lauded the prospects that he received from the Dodgers, took exception to the notion that he should have waited until closer to the deadline, saying, quote, "We came into this with a firm idea of the type of deal that we wanted to ultimately land. We had a deep understanding of what every organization had to offer. I understand the intuition. Hey, you're supposed to wait until the very last second. That's not how markets for the top players work." End quote. Maybe one of the reasons, other than trading away the best pitcher in baseball, that Scott Harris felt the need to come out is the Tigers, by the national media, are being pilloried. They're a loser. The best grade I saw they got was a C+. They're losers and or they're C or lower. A team says, this is USA Today, that was supposed to be in the World Series this year, maybe ending their 42-year drought, spent a franchise record with their $220 million payroll, signed Framber Valdez, kept Tariq Skubal, and now 2.5 games out of a wild card spot, panicked, surrendered, dumped Skubal. This is the USA Today writing. They got 3 nice prospects, none of the Dodgers' top 5. Rival executives were surprised the Tigers didn't wait until the last hours. Harris addressed that. Seeing if the Brewers would increase their offer or someone else would come in. ESPN named the Tigers a loser, pointing to that 7-0 lead that they blew last Wednesday in Skubal's last start, writing an organization that just traded its best player on a Saturday night saw them end the day yesterday, 2.5 games out of a wild card spot. Keep in mind that since MLB expanded to 6 playoff teams in 2022, we've seen the Phillies, the Diamondbacks, and the Rangers reach the World Series as wild cards. The Rangers won it. Given the overall weakness of the American League, the Tigers had a 20% chance of making the playoffs entering Sunday after trading away Skubal, but they took that 20% and threw it back in the face of their fans, who haven't seen the Tigers in a World Series since 2012 and they haven't won since '84. Tigers, losers, Steve.
Yes and no. I hear all of that. Okay, so they wait to the last minute and nothing develops of what they want and they get nothing. How would those people who wrote this article, how would they be writing it up today if the Tigers ended up having to hold on to Skubal? Oh, you have this best pitcher. He's leaving a free agency at the end of the year. You didn't get nothing for him. You should have traded him. and or traded him. Or, it's always easy for us to sit here in these seats and criticize. I go to the Tigers, and where I think they blew it is a couple of years ago. They should have signed him to a long-term contract. He may not have done it, but they would have known. And if they knew he was not willing to sign with the Tigers because he wanted to test free agency due to his agent, etc., knowing that, and I'm going to compare it to the Mookie Betts part with the Red Sox. If you know that, not only should they have traded him this prior offseason, they probably should have traded him the year before, because now the team gets him for either, 2 seasons or a season and a half, or even possibly 3, which then makes him that much more valuable to bring in those other players, those high prospects. But the Tigers, for their fans, tried to show they could win. Do you think they upped the payroll because they just had money burning in their pockets? No, they seriously believed, which is why they didn't trade him earlier, that they had a shot to win the American League East, well, the American League, their division, etc., and had a shot to go to the World Series. The Tigers haven't been there. In '84 was the last time they won a World Series. Uh, they wanted to do something for their fans. I can't blame them on that that process. I think they did what the best they could do with the hand they were dealt going into this weekend. And you look at it and go, oh, well, the Red Sox, they give them all these prospects for, Adley Rushman. Well, that's a catcher. The Red Sox didn't really need a pitcher. Or I thought it would be cool if they went out and got Skubal, as every team in baseball would have thought that as well. Who's to say the Red Sox were even willing to give up that same package for Skubal? I'd be willing to tell you they were not willing to give up that same package for Skubal. It would have been slightly less. So I just, Monday morning quarterback is so easy to sit back and say, oh, you should have done this, you should have done that. Yes, they lost Skubal. They gave up Mize. They realized their season. Look, both of these players are leaving at the end of the year. Let's get something for it now. And they would have kept Mize if they had kept Skubal. But with Skubal gone, it was like, okay, now we got to move Mize. Let's see what we can get there. And I just think the critics are far too harsh. What would they have done? And they're going to go, oh, well, I would have gotten this, 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 and this. Team has to be willing to give that up. And if they were willing to give it up for you, they would have been willing to give it up for the Tigers. Just because you think you could have pulled a better trade doesn't mean it actually would have happened.
So if we take your scenario and their scenario, wait. There's a and if we take Harris at his word, the president of the Tigers, they had an idea of what they wanted to get. There's a phrase in negotiations, best and final, and you kind of rely on a person's word. If somebody says this is our best and final, that's it. We're not adding to it. We're not going any further. So if the Dodgers said that on Saturday night and the Tigers went, well, we got 42 hours left. That's their best and final, and it's better than everyone else's. Yes, they could have gambled and they could have waited. And now, are the Dodgers so desperate that they would have upped their offer? I don't know. And then we get into that question, like somebody wrote there with the Brewers. You, Steve, say, I don't think the Red Sox would have gone much further. So the idea of waiting, there's risks there, as Steve pointed out. But what about, now you brought up the fans, Steve, what about the argument they're 2.5 out to the fans? Why this was one of the concerns you and I were talking about last week. What does it look like to the fans if you do trade them away and you're in contention and or you stay in contention? They're 2.5 back. Yeah, they got to go through a couple teams. They're not out of it today. Although they don't have Skubal and they don't have Mize anymore. How does that circle square with the fans?
I understand it, but I don't go there. And I'm going to use Mookie Betts because, being a diehard Red Sox fan, look, I came to the conclusion a year and a half before the Red Sox traded him away that Mookie Betts was not re-signing with them. When you heard the negotiations, they weren't close, etc. I was on the bandwagon. Trade him now. I love Mookie Betts. I still do to this day. He was a generational type player that really changes franchises in their entirety, and a wonderful, not only player on the field, but what appears to be a wonderful person. That's the one you want to back your franchise up to. But if he's not going to resign, you got to be realistic. As a fan, you want to win championships, and the Tigers weren't winning this year. I don't care what anybody says. Anybody looks at it. The Tigers are not winning the World Series this year with where the Dodgers were at. With what they had, they couldn't, even in a short series. Okay, even if Scubo gets 2 wins, where are they getting any other wins? It's just not going to happen. They should have moved him earlier. And I showed you, because I texted you, the only other trade offer that I saw was from the Phillies. And it was Justin Crawford, a top prospect for the Phillies, and another major league player. That wasn't even close to what the Dodgers had. Everybody says, oh, the Brewers should get a Brewers should show me the best offer the Brewers made, and let's see and evaluate it off of that. And if it included Made or what's the other, they got another really high prospect there and a few more. If it would have included 2-3 of them, then I'd say, well, hey, maybe the Brewers offer was better. But we haven't seen it. It's easy to speculate that everyone would have given their, left arm to get Scooble. Let's see what was really offered. And the Phillies offer was not as good. And if I'm the Tigers looking at it going, these are really the only 2 offers I have, then the Tigers took the Dodgers just because that was the best offer in front of them. And I believe the Tigers took, as you said, look, I want your final offer. We're not dragging this to 2:59 on Monday afternoon Pacific Coast time, and then I'll make my decision because I don't want to get stuck with the bill. And give me your final offer. I think they lined them up, looked at them, and said, here, this is the best one we think for us going forward. And they took it, and it was the Dodgers. So to speculate on these other teams' offers when you haven't even seen them is crazy.
And that is the great thing about Monday morning quarterbacking, because you get to make these arguments that are unknowable and unprovable. Because what those who are arguing this, are going to say is, well, the Brewers might have gone deeper. The Brewers have the best farm system, according to all the rankings. Dodgers are third. They didn't get any of the Dodgers' top 5. Brewers might have dipped into their top 5 if the Tigers would have just waited. That's a brilliant argument, because we'll never know, will we? And the Tigers can come out and they can say, hey, Milwaukee told us Saturday their best and final wasn't even close. And people are going to say, yeah, but they would have by Monday. It's a great argument. Anytime you can argue something and no one can ever prove you wrong, oh, this is what journalists are made of, Steve. Come on. Let me just think of a scenario that I can keep saying they woulda, and no one can prove me wrong, and I'm going to write it down. And that's why the Tigers are the big losers, or one of the big losers, according to all these wizards of smart.
And again, speculation. And so far, I've thrown some big trade offers out there. I believe if you want in, go get it. Go big. And that's where I can't fully blame the Red Sox on their trade for Rushman, because I think Rushman is one of the best catch players in baseball. But man, they gave up a lot for him. But they were willing to do it. There was the offer. They put it out there. As you said, make believe land. That's where they all want to live. They want to, oh, I'm right, but I can't prove a single thing. But the great part is, as you said, you can't prove me wrong. So I look like a genius, even though I can't back anything that I've set up.
And by the way, it's similar to other people who are walking around within the same concept, who are spouting off platitudes like the Dodgers are causing the lockout. The Dodgers have ruined baseball. Well, it's unprovable other than to say we were already headed towards a lockout. Well, yeah, but they made it worse. It's a great place to sit and not really think and not really be challenged. Now, you've mentioned the Red Sox a few times. They're the team that no one can agree on. Many have them as winners. Many have them as losers. Some say they got a B plus, A minus. Others say C minus. The winners, USA Today says that the Red Sox are the new American League pennant favorites. They went all in for the jugular. They traded for Rushman. They acquired reliever Eric Miller, giving up Mayer. They got outfielder Eli White from Atlanta. Good haul for your Boston Red Sox. Others, like ESPN, say losers, saying the Rushman and Meyer deals are bizarre. Giving up 3 of your top 5 prospects of a very good system is a wild pay for Rushman. Meyer is one of the top prospects in the game as of not so long ago, and he was flipped for a lefty reliever who walks 6 batters per 9 innings. Jesus. You have to admire, says ESPN, Chief Baseball Officer Craig Breslow going absolutely all in when so many front offices are reluctant to do so. But the Red Sox better win the division, or Boston could easily find itself eliminated in an anything can happen in 3 games wild card series. That's why ESPN says they're losers.
Well, I love the reporters who go on the surface and really don't seem to go deep into what's going on with the sport and the various things. Marcelo Mayer was, I believe, the number 14 prospect in all of baseball going into last season.
Yes.
And the Red Sox call him up. He's had like 330 at bats, something like that. He's hitting like 220. They've bumped him from second to shortstop to second back to short. They've never fully ever committed to him to be that full-time shortstop, and let's figure out what you can do and what you can play. So he was never given a legitimate shot. And as you said, oh, look, they got this relief pitcher, and analytics light up the board. The guy has everything, throws the ball hard, nobody hits him. Well, nobody hits him because he can't throw strikes. As you said, he walked 6 batters in 9 innings. This is a guy who automatically just says, you know what? I'm going to pick a batter in every inning. I'm going to put a guy on base and try to pitch myself out of trouble. That doesn't have long-term success. That's why I'm a big believer in whip. Walks and hits divided by innings pitched tells me how many runners they put on per inning type of thing. And the lower the number, the better chance for success. So you give up on a player who was a top 14 prospect in all of baseball right before the beginning of last season for a guy who has a hard time throwing strikes, unless he can suddenly figure it out. He's never going to consistently throw strikes. So he'll have stretches where he'll be dominant and say, wow, this guy is just great. But then there's going to be stretches where you're like, oh my gosh, he couldn't hit the ocean, from a plane when he's flying over top going to Hawaii. He's that bad. So is that a steal? I don't think so. It's going to play out, and we'll see. And maybe Marcelo's really never going to be that quality guy. And as far as, Rushman, all-star catcher, like 2 years, 3 years, one of the best defenders. On paper, it looks great. His first 2-3 years in the league, he was great. The last couple of years, he's been injured all the time. Where is Rushman right now? He's on the IL. How many times has he been on the IL this year? He's been on the IL 3 times this year. Okay, so now let's break it out even farther. He's signed through the end of next year. At the end of 2027, he will become a free agent. If they don't have a season, he will still become a free agent. So let's play my scenario of there's not going to be a season next year. You just gave up 3 of the top 5 prospects in the Red Sox organization that are ready to hit the majors. And it's one of the best. There's a difference. The Padres gave up their number 2 prospect for, I don't remember if it was Robbie Ray or Casey Mize. It was Casey Mize, their number 2 prospect. But as you read yesterday, the number 2 prospect for the Padres, which was a bottom 5 farm systems in all of baseball, doesn't even put him in the top 100 prospects of all of baseball. I would tell you probably may not put him in the top 200 prospects in all of baseball. So we got the number 2 prospect. Yeah, but he's like 843rd best prospect in the major leagues. Does that mean anything? Where the Orioles picked up 2, and this is where I defend the Tigers. The Tigers picked up 2 top 68 prospects in all of baseball, even though they were not in the top 5 for the Dodgers. That's doing something. The Orioles are picking up 3 top prospects from the Red Sox, and I know 2 of them, I believe, are in the top 100. If not all 3 of them are in the top 100 for what could be 2 months rental, and then he's a free agent, and he's on the IL right now. Who's to say he's not going to remain on the IL? And when you read the conversation, I think they said they aren't even sure of when he's going to be able to come off the IL and play. So you give up all that for possibly 2 months of a rental of a team that for their first 70 games of the season was one of the 3 worst teams in baseball. I don't see how you can put this as a Red Sox big winners, and this was great, especially if they then let Adley walk away and they don't sign him long term. And I want to hit on one more thing. Craig Breslow, I'm with it because I still would fire him. I've been calling for him to get fired all year because he's gone to analytics. And even though he played in the big leagues, he really should understand the eye test. And he has forgotten all about that in every way. I think Craig Breslow has heard all of those people looking to fire him and said, look, if we don't win, I may get fired here. So he just said, you know what? I got control of the Red Sox farm system here. I'm their GM. You know what? I'm going to go out and I'm going to take out so much credit on my credit card that if it doesn't work out, I'm getting fired anyway, but then I'll just put them into bankruptcy and I won't have to worry about it. And if it does work out, then I keep my job. Who knows? I might be able to go out and sign an extension and get paid on how great I am, and all those boo birds will go away. I think he did it solely to keep his job, not for the best of the Red Sox. He's in desperation mode right now to stay in charge of the baseball operations for the Red Sox. And he said, I don't care if I leave them with a really ugly check if they're going to fire me anyway if I can't turn this thing around.
By the way, before we have this pitcher the Tigers acquired for Casey Mize as the 800th ranked player in the world, let me clear up. That is right. Is that who you're talking about? Who they traded for Mize, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that was Cash Mayfield. He was the number 2 prospect overall for the Padres. He is now ranked as the number 6 prospect in the Tigers farm system. So not as good, but good, etc. Boy, no one liked what the Brewers did. They were big time losers. Mainly because they have the best farm system in baseball. They could have jumped on top starters. Instead, they settled on Antonio Senzatella, or whoever the hell this guy is from the Rockies. They got Dustin May. They got Jojo Romero. Yes, Senzatella has been a good right-handed reliever. Romero's on the IL. May has been erratic. And people say, this is USA Today, you figured the Brewers would do more considering that the Cubs went insane. Also, if any team would have been able to outbid the Dodgers for Skubal, it would have been the Brewers because, again, Jesus Mate and others are sitting there in that system and they didn't. So people say, you're a loser because in the end, you Brewers, you just sat there. Are they losers?
Yes and no. And this is that part of you can't prove them wrong. The Brewers have a system, and I've been saying this all along, and everybody, the Brewers are going to get Skubal. This is the year. And I've said all along, look, that's not the way this team is built. It's not what they do and how they run baseball. Why are they constantly one of the best teams in baseball and they falter in postseason? Because they aren't willing to make that. It's easy for all these sports writers. They should have mortgaged the house. They should have put out this. They should have pushed it. Yes, it may have got them, but that's not what they do. It's the Brewers have a system. There was no way, in my opinion, they were ever going to, in their minds go all in. What do they do? Okay, we picked up Dustin May. He's having a pretty decent season. He's not going to cost us that much. They pick up JoJo Romero, who's a serviceable bullpen to add a little depth to that bullpen. They picked up Sensatella. He's a failed starter with the Rockies, and it's tough to be successful with the Colorado Rockies. But the Rockies this year moved him to the bullpen, and for the first many couple of months, he was really dominant. He has slipped a little bit. He's lost a little bit on his velocity, but he was able to go to the bullpen and go max velocity, max speed, which is what made him a pretty good relief pitcher. He was the best relief pitcher on this Rockies team. So he's a nice pickup as well, but they got him. They didn't give up a whole lot. They kept their farm system intact. So when they have to let these other players move on, they're going to continue to contend for that National League Central Division. And even though the Cubs went all in, because that's what the Cubs do, they have the money. You knew the Cubs were going to go all in and, make some really big trades for it. The Brewers just sit there like Tampa Bay, nice and steady. We believe in our system, and the Rays picked up Liam Hicks. I mean, this guy can hit. They needed help at catcher. They got him for cheap from the Marlins, and now they solved their part. But Liam Hicks, most people are going, who's he? And I would tell you, with what these people are writing in the papers, they probably go, I don't know who Liam Hicks really is either and what his strengths are. And that because they just know, the Brewers' best farm system in baseball, give it all away for Skubal because he's the best pitcher in baseball. And he was never going to re-sign with the Brewers. So why would you go after that 2-month rental? It's not their way. The Red Sox, yeah, the Yankees, the Dodgers, yeah, maybe they do for that 2-month rental, but the Brewers never fit that mold.
Now, losers are more interesting, so we're going to stay with the losers. But you brought up the Cubs, who clearly are winners. They went nuts. They have the money, they have the means, they have the farm system. Well, so do the Braves and so do the Phillies, who have been resoundingly named as losers. You and I were openly wondering about the Braves. They did the least of all of the first place teams. Could have used a better starting pitcher. They wound up with Tyler Mahle. I mean, that's basically what the Braves did. The Phillies, they added Arias to provide that needed lineup thing, but everybody's evaluated it, Steve, the same way you did. They probably heard your evaluation and just wrote it down. Arias will play at second. Bryson Stott will go to third. Alec Boehm's going to first. Bryce Harper's going to the outfield where he hasn't played in 4 years. Stott's inexperienced at third base makes the Phillies arguably worse on defense at all 4 positions. And they're fighting for a wild card spot. They went into the trade deadline looking for a right-handed hitting outfielder. They ended up with a left-handed hitting infielder. Braves, Phillies, in the hunt, money, ability, nothing. They are the two, seems to me, that a lot of people putting the Brewers in there. I like your evaluation. Braves, Phillies, actual real-time biggest losers?
Well, I'd put, I don't know if I'm saying they're the biggest losers. They both are losers. Then the Braves surprised me because they didn't do anything. They had to go get an address starting pitching. They didn't do that at all. I guess they're happy with Martin Perez, and Carlos Carrasco that they can cut 8 times, keep bringing them up and re-signing them, throwing them out there. They keep winning, so I can't be that harsh on them. The Phillies, though, I love Arias. I don't think this makes sense. And Bryce Harper went to first base like 4 years ago because of injury concerns. And the question is can he even throw the baseball anymore, especially from right field? Well, now he's back out in right field, which then you're saying, so why did you move him from the outfield to the infield to first base 4 years ago to protect his career? Keep him healthy, keep him on the field because he's a big part of your offense. Has that changed? And now you're like, Harper's slumping this year. What do we care if he ruins his career, if he can't make a throw, if he hurts his shoulder again? That's not the right attitude and thought process. So it defeated everything they've done for the last 4 years. Their outfielder's a mess. I mean, De La Cruz isn't getting it done. They brought in Garcia. He got hurt. He hadn't hit in 3 years. He is a former outfielder with the Rangers. Um, they're playing Edmundo Sosa out there in the outfield. He's a utility infielder guy. So they had serious problems in that outfield, but there were outfielders out there to be had. They didn't go after them. And instead they said, we're going to make us bad fielding in every infield position now. And we're just going to be terrible there. And we got a right fielder that we don't even know can make the throw, from right field to second base, let alone try to go right field to third base. And so a lot of questions with the Phillies, and that's the problem there. And they at least we know they made an offer for Skubal, so they were in on Skubal. They have the offer out there. It wasn't good enough because they didn't have the Dodgers or the Brewers or the Red Sox farm system, but they tried. You cannot knock them for that. And from there, they're like, well, what are we really going to get? They needed to get another starter. Luzardo, Wheeler, Sanchez has been really good. Aaron Nola actually had a decent start last night. I think he gave up 3 runs in six innings. The outing before that, he lost 1-0. But Aaron Nola's been terrible for a year and a half, and they don't have anyone out of that 5th spot. So they really needed to go after starting pitching, just like the Braves, and nothing.
The other 4 teams mentioned as losers, the White Sox, who just didn't do much to improve their team. Yeah, they got Castillo. The Marlins are actually mentioned as losers for giving up Liam Hicks. The Yankees didn't do much of anything and are hanging on to dear life to make the playoffs, hoping that Aaron Judge, Stanton, and Bellinger return. Privately, it's being reported by ESPN. The Yankees are much more concerned than they're conveying publicly about Aaron Judge, and actually terrified he won't be back this year. And the 4th losing team we haven't mentioned, you mentioned him, but not as a loser, the Diamondbacks, who surged into the 2nd wild card spot, told everyone they wanted to be aggressive at the trade deadline. They wanted a starter. They wanted a big bat. They wanted a reliever. They got from the Cardinals Lars Nootbaar, and that was it. There's your 4 other losers. White Sox doesn't seem fair to me. Marlins, Yankees, Diamondbacks.
Yeah, Diamondbacks, they got Lars Nootbaar. They needed to get another outfielder with that. They gave up a potential pretty good starting pitcher there. He throws hard. It's just, can the Cardinals harness his ability? So I think they kind of overpaid for Nootbaar. Came up and the metrics were there. This kid was going to be, a star, a really good outfielder. Injuries and stuff have sidetracked him. He has not been the same player. And the Cardinals have a lot of outfielders. They've moved on from him. So the fact they got even a prospect that's pretty good was good. But what else did the Diamondbacks have to offer to go after that? What were the other teams?
White Sox, which I don't like that one.
White Sox is awful. Come on, their window. Everybody thought they'd be one of the 4 worst teams in baseball. They're sitting there playing great baseball. They're leading their division, and you want them to mortgage and go all in because of this season when they aren't even ready yet. I just can't. Luis Castillo comes in there not having a good season, but he's a veteran leadership who's been there in the past to add to their youth. They have a very young staff, and he throws innings, which is what they've needed. I thought it was a good pickup for them, and they didn't give up that much. I think another one you had in there was the Mariners, one of them in there.
Marlins.
No, Marlins. Yeah, and this part I would agree. They gave up Liam Hicks, who's had a really good year. He's a really good young hitter, but they brought up Joe Mack, and Mack is such a defensive whiz, and he's hitting like 240, which is enough to keep him happy. And he is so much better defender than Liam Hicks. My disappointment is they got some marginal prospects. It wasn't even a whole lot back from the Rays for Liam Hicks. But I think they viewed it as, look, he's getting squeezed out. He's not good enough to play first base for us. He's not good enough to play catcher for us. Yes, we're DHing, but who's to say? And as good of a hitter he is, I don't think he fit. And I think he was an odd man out in there. So they're like, look, right now he's having a really good season. Let's get something for him. I'm surprised more teams did not. Why did the Yankees not go after him? That doesn't make sense. That's what the Yankees were looking at. He would be a good fit for the Yankees, but the Yankees didn't go there. And of all of them, the Yankees are the team I think that came out as a loser. Brian Cashman's catching heat now because they didn't do anything. And this is a team that's willing to give up their future. They're still holding on to Jason Dominguez, who they just sent down to the minor leagues. I keep talking about him and Spencer Jones as their two big prospects. Well, look, they just sent Jason Dominguez down for like the fifth time. At a certain point, he's going to run out of minor league options, and they're going to be forced to make a decision. Do we keep him or do we trade him? How do you not move like Jason Dominguez for Hicks or something to that extent? And they didn't. They stayed pat. They brought in Luis Garcia, which I'm curious to see where he's going to go because he came up as a light hitting middle infielder, second baseman, shortstop. And suddenly this year he found the power surge and he's playing first base and he's doing great. I think he was leading like the National League in slugging for against like right-handed pitching. I mean, he's been unbelievable. But like Curtis Mead, is this a fluke? Is this really where he's going to be? He's shown none of this prior to this season at the major league level, and that's their one pickup. They could have done a lot more. They had the pitch in depth to go out and get what they wanted. But I do think their hands were tied because is Aaron Judge coming back? If he comes back, he's playing. Giancarlo Stanton, he's their DH. Bellinger's there. And so it was kind of a tough spot of, do we go out and get one of these? Hicks makes sense, but we go get this outfielder that we need. Well, as soon as these guys come back, where's he playing? And how much did we give up for a guy now to become our fourth outfielder?
So on that one, they settled for the Heliot Ramos trade, which happened right at the end of our show yesterday. And Cashman, the GM Cashman, did tell reporters yesterday he pursued a shortstop before the trade deadline. They could not reach a deal. He said, quote, "We engaged everybody." The Yankees are going to call up George Lombard Jr. after optioning Anthony Volpe, one of your favorites, back down to AAA. Lombard's 21, started the season in AA before getting to AAA in late April, batting .268, 6 home runs, and 56 games. At that level, he was sidelined for nearly a month after spraining 2 fingers, and since his return in AAA, .377 in 65 plate appearances. The Yankees have long considered Lombard big league ready on the defense, expected to play shortstop in New York. He has started 11 games at third base. That has nothing to do with yesterday other than, well, this is what we're doing to move forward as the Yankees. It's that and hope that people will get healthy.
And as you're reading that, this is what I question. Okay, Lombard was the number one prospect in the Yankees system. He is major league ready defensively, and it looked like he's hitting ready to go. Why were they on the market for a shortstop? He's your best product. He's a shortstop ready to get to the big leagues. Why are you going out for that? And by the way, they sent Volpe down, and he's going to start playing second base because maybe they can use him at second because Lombard is their future. And that's the question I asked with the Red Sox. Arias was their best prospect in the system that they still have. He is a shortstop ready to hit the big leagues. And all we kept hearing was the Red Sox are seriously shopping for a shortstop. They've talked for Neto, CJ Abrams. They talked about Ellie De La Cruz. Well, why are they so hot after a shortstop when their best product is a shortstop? I don't get it. The Yankees, that one doesn't make sense. The catcher talk did make sense. The outfielder and Elio Ramos crushes lefties. So that fits. Look, he's going to platoon in there. He's going to give him a little more pop against left-handed pitching. And, that more makes sense. But a shortstop for the Yankees, crazy.
By the way, I will always say Heliot because you just can't spell it that way and not pronounce it Heliot. So when I asked you if the Braves and Phillies were the big losers, you said they're losers, but you wouldn't. So who's the big loser?
I don't think you want to know this. Me, the A's.
We're going to talk about the A's. We're going to talk about the A's and the Giants. We're going to talk about the A's and the Giants in a later segment since there are regional teams. I just wanted to get you on the record. I expected that, by the way. Winners overwhelmingly, it's not even close. If you take the Dodgers out of it, they got Scooble. Cubs, Padres. What the hell? Even after our show, they got the Padres. They did it. They were the ones that got the 301 trade in with Casey Mize. Can't deny both these teams went all in. Everybody, by the way, writing about A.J. Preller of the Padres in the same vein that you talk about him. There was no chance he wasn't going to do this. I don't think many people thought he would go as far as they did. But despite one of the weakest farm systems in the majors, they got Casey Mize and they got Robbie Ray. They kept Mason Miller. The Cubs, they got Clay Holmes, they got Kevin Gausman, they got Braxton Garrett, Ryan Zefferson, and they did give up one of their top prospects in shortstop Jefferson Rojas. Cubs, Padres, the two big winners. It sure seems obvious to me.
I think they are. And as you said, the Cubs only gave up one player out of all of this and acquired all of that talent. Bullpen help, two starting pitchers. Hopefully, Clay Holmes can return quickly and bolster that staff. So the Mets got a good player there. The Mets went after quantity, not quality, but they did get Rojas, which does give them some quality. And the Padres, as you said, one of the 5 worst farm systems in all of baseball. Yes, they gave up their second prospect, but they landed Robbie Ray and Casey Mize. They don't have enough depth in order to address their hitting. Their hitting has struggled a bit, but hopefully, Jackson Merrill can start hitting again. Tatis can hit with a little bit of power. Manny Machado's looking like he's turned the corner a little bit. And they landed 2 pitchers in the rotation. So now, yesterday, I was saying they only had Michael King. And then it was like, look out, we don't have a whole lot. They just added Robbie Ray, who's been great for like the last 7 or 8 starts, something like that. And Casey Mize is having a great year. And he's in San Diego. I think he's going to like pitching in San Diego, and that could turn into one that they sign to a multi-year contract if he performs the way they hope they do. And if he does, it means he's been really good helping them. And Robbie Ray, that was a salary jump by the Giants. The Giants didn't get anything back. It was like, hey, here, take his salary. He's off our books. Good luck. We hope you can catch the Dodgers and or beat the Dodgers. So we'll give you this guy for 2 months. And then Robbie Ray will be a free agent at the end of the season.
We'll go through what the A's and Giants say about what they did or didn't do yesterday in a little bit. And with the Padres, they have a hope quotient to what they're doing that's entirely different than the Yankees. The Yankees are basically hoping that Judge isn't out for the season, that Stanton comes back. I mean, they're hoping Bellinger comes back. The Padres are hoping offensively that guys who have proven their offensive players just get their act together. That's a totally different level of hope. They got the pitching, and they got the names in the lineup. Just do your job. And suddenly the Padres are a viable contender. We'll talk more about all of that and baseball. Promise you some NFL news as well, all coming up.
Rob and Steve continue next, only on the radnetwork.com.
The first time Corey walked into my home, I came around the corner, extended my right hand to shake it, and said to him, "Wow, you're big." And that would be Corey from QuickDumpsters.com. Quick is spelled wrong intentionally. Quick, Q-U-I, can charge and removed dozens of boxes of total junk, unusable dog kennels, desks that were falling apart, a worthless old smoker that couldn't be fixed, bag after bag of crap, and I can't remember what else. He was quick, spelled wrong, Q-U-I-K, quiet and clean. Well, he wasn't clean. I mean, he was. But I'm not commenting on his hygiene. I meant that his work was clean. He swept everything when he was done, and the house looked like he'd never even been there. Corey's the real deal, and I couldn't be more proud and happy to call him a brand new advertiser. His story is incredible, his dedication unmatched, and his motivation to succeed larger than he is, and that's saying something. Quotes are free. You don't even have to have them over to your house. Just send him some pics or videos, and you'll get your price, schedule your day and time, and watch someone else get that junk out of your house. Go to QuickDumpsters.com. Quick, Q-U-I-K, Dumpsters.com. Quick, Q-U-I-K, Dumpsters.com. Longtime maggots will remember Greg from MAP, M-A-P, as in Maximum Athletic Performance, which guides you to better output through better ingredients, also known as nutrition. Greg has been on the Rad Show many times and will be again, as he simplifies nutrition and helps us all understand what actually works when it comes to fueling our bodies, almost all of which can be found at maptrition.com. Every product is formulated with clinical precision and backed by science and purpose, and maptrition.com has something for every fitness level, even those of us who barely have a fitness level. With nearly 20 years as a nutritionist and a specialization in sports nutrition, Greg works with athletes and everyday individuals to optimize performance, energy, and overall health through smarter fueling strategies, all of which starts at maptrition.com. At the very least, we should all be taking daily multivitamins, and Greg has his formulated for exactly what a man or woman's body needs. Protein is in, but maybe instead of getting yours from mac and cheese with extra protein, you get it from maptrition.com. And of course, all things workout, training, and exercise are available as well. From pre-workout to creatine and other muscle builders to recovery supplements and more, all at maptrition.com. From morning breakfast essentials to post-workout recovery and everything in between, maptrition.com's full range of supplements, proteins, and wellness products are built to power your journey from start to finish. Check out all the products and find what's right for you and order it shipped to you all at maptrition.com. That's maptrition.com.
Steve has been running sports books for decades, and Rob spent decades running radio so far into the ground he just created his own network. This is the Rob and Steve Sports Show on the Rad Network.
As we jump over to NFL news, and there is a bunch as camps are getting into full swing. First of all, I did my non-assigned in-show homework from yesterday. We like to have fun with each other where Steve will spout off these things of, hey, why don't you look into this? And it's like hours later, I've got the answer. But as I said last time, I love it. I do love it because Steve asks interesting questions I want to know the answers to. Also, like we were just talking about these cowards that write these columns. Well, if the Dodgers would have just waited, the Brewers would have traded Miz to him. And it's like, the Tigers would have waited. What? Shut up. We like also to be, I don't like people that argue, well, I'm pretty sure. That's not an answer. So we were talking about the NFL Top 100, which is being announced. This is players vote. They do it every year. We won't know until the beginning of the season, the top 20. What we do know as they release them slowly is that the players have said that Lamar Jackson is the 69th best player in the league. And when it comes to quarterbacks, he's not as good as Trevor Lawrence, Bo Nix, Jalen Hurts, and Caleb Williams. They've all been ranked, and they're ahead of him. We're waiting to see who else is named, who else is left off the list. And as we were talking about Lamar Jackson, the question came up of how many double-digit leads has that guy blown, I believe is what you said, Steve.
In the fourth quarter.
In the fourth quarter.
Yep.
Well, and you said, I don't really expect you to look that up. I went, yeah, but I'm not the biggest Lamar Jackson fan, and I'd like to know that too. So down the cave I went. In the NFL, individual quarterback statistics for blown double-digit leads are not officially tracked as a standalone career for players. Instead, large late-game collapses are typically attributed to the team and head coach. Okay, I can work with this. Wait, here's the next paragraph. The most prominent historical ranking belongs to head coach John Harbaugh of the Baltimore Ravens, who holds the NFL record for the most blown double-digit second-half leads. That was as close as I could get. I couldn't get fourth quarter. I'm giving you second half. John Harbaugh does, 17 blown double-digit second-half leads since they began tracking in 1991. Of those, 11 belong to Lamar. The other 6 were before Lamar. You weren't out on a limb much there, Steve.
I didn't think so.
Falcons running back Bijan Robinson has a new contract, pushes the position from $20.5 million to $22.5 million in terms of the annual blah, blah, blah average thing. His new 3-year deal does not get stapled onto the end of his 2 years. He'll have a brand new 5-year deal, which folds the existing cash from 26 and 27 into 28, 29, and 30. Other than that, just being, a guy signed. Well, we've been talking about this. What does Lions running back Jahmyr Gibbs do now? Will he, same draft class, similar, he's doing a hold-in as well. Will he match Robinson's number? Will he try to beat it? His agent certainly will try to beat it. Will they try to blow it away? We were talking yesterday. Do we put running back up there with wide receiver who's going to get paid in the NFL when all of this is done? Lions head coach Dan Campbell's already talked about it twice this morning, saying nothing but stringing words together. Quote, it's not going to hurt that Bijan signed. I'm anxious to get Gibbs back out there. Every day that goes by, we miss him. It'll get done when it gets done. Like I said, no actual language there. So Bijan didn't break the bank. He just got a little more than Saquon Barkley, and that's normal when you're in that stratosphere. I'm the next one in the last few years. Gibbs, I don't know what's he gonna get, $23 million a year. I don't think he's gonna break the bank, but this seems somewhat reasonable to me.
The math I would ask to be done, and again, sorry, this is kind of a homework, but not on my end. There's 2 more years in the contract and the franchise tag. So really it's 3-year control you have on him. Is the difference between that full 5-year contract and what would have been the 3 years, because that would tell you how much they're paying for year 4 and year 5 if they for this contract. Being that I think it was only like 52 million guaranteed, it wasn't a huge number, I don't believe, guaranteed.
Really?
And I could be wrong on that. I thought that's what I had read on it. I went through it really fast.
67 million is guaranteed.
Okay,
3 years. Yeah, the 3 years of 67 million is guaranteed.
Okay, so a bit more than I had thought, because as you and I have always said, it's the guaranteed money that matters. Nothing else, means anything. I could say, oh, he signed a $200 million contract, but only 34 million is guaranteed. Well, he's going to get paid 34 million, and he's going to get released following that option of that guaranteed money being there. So it doesn't mean anything. And that's where I'd say, if that year 4 and year 5 costs the team 30 million per year for the 4th year and the 5th year, I don't think it's worth it. I would rather roll the dice, go the 2 years that he's stuck and the franchise tag, and maybe negotiate it next year. But I don't think, if it turns out to be, hey, look, it's only really like 23 million each year, then it makes a little bit more sense, and get into that 70 million guaranteed and roll it. So it for me, it comes down to the numbers. I like the fact he's holding in. Look, he's not going to get injured, I hope, unless it's falling down the stairs, or trying to push his way through the food line in the employee cafeteria. But outside of that, he's not going to get hurt. It isn't like he needs a ton of reps. I still got to believe he's running, working out, staying in shape, and doing everything he needs to do, study films. Because if he's showing up to training camp, and I couldn't do that, if he's showing up and just saying, look, I'm going to sit in the chair in front of my locker and I'm not going to do anything. That's what my hold-in is. That would drive me crazy. I mean, I at least want to take part in the film study, the meetings for running backs, the team meetings, all of that other stuff, which is what he needs to do anyway. So let him be healthy for week 1. I'm happy with it. Look at the 49ers. They don't have any healthy bodies right now, and training camp just started.
Was that necessary? Was that really nice?
Sorry.
By the way, we do have it confirmed by everybody involved. Jahmyr Gibbs is doing every single thing he's allowed to do. He is sitting in every meeting he's allowed to do. He's working out in every way. He's just there's a you're not practice. You're not doing that. Everything he's allowed to do, and still be doing a sit-in or whatever, a hold-in. He's doing it. So what you hope is happening is happening. Meanwhile, speaking of the Ravens, they have locked up one of their young offensive players. Receivers Zay Flowers agreed to a 4-year contract extension worth $140 million with $108 million guaranteed. That puts him at a per-year average of $35 million. JSN makes $42.5 million to lead all receivers. We've mentioned Zay Flowers a number of times, Steve. He's a good player. They should lock him up. This makes sense.
Yeah.
No.
I just think the wide receiver money has gotten so out of hand. A wide receiver can't do anything unless the quarterback throws them the ball. You're handcuffed. If I have a bad quarterback, the wide receiver position doesn't mean that much. Now, granted, if you have a good quarterback, Lamar Jackson needs all the explosive weapons he can get, which will make him better, the team better. It's kind of that double-edged sword is you got to get them the weapons for the quarterback to be good, but then you got to have a good quarterback in order to take advantage of the weapons. And with the cap and where it's at, just going into 30 plus million, 40 million for a wide receiver, I just, man, but that's how the game has changed. Bring back the old school. I'm an old man on the porch again. Bring it back when I needed to, have talent everywhere. It wasn't just on the offensive side of the ball.
So, who are you picking on here? The fact that we're paying wide receivers so much, Zay Flowers or Lamar Jackson? Who are you picking on? Or all of them?
I'm picking on the fact that the wide receiver market has gotten so big. That's Zay Flowers, he's one of the better wide receivers out there. Do I think he's like deserves to be the second highest paid wide? No, not at all. I don't, if I'm Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, I'm some of these guys going, let's go renegotiate my contract. Because if I'm Justin Jefferson, who I still think is the best wide receiver in the game, then if Zay Flowers going to get that, then what am I going to ask for?
We've been talking about Tony Romo, got the OWI or operating while intoxicated, whatever it was called, where he was. And then the body cam came out. That wasn't so good. Oh, he had an open container that way. And that was the day CBS issued their very terse statement that he was on leave from CBS until the dreaded "until further notice" line. So we started immediately speculating. I mean, that's what we do. I said, if I'm Greg Olson's agent, I'm calling CBS. Greg Olson used to be number one on Fox, got dumped to number two thanks to Tom Brady. Greg Olson's still with me. As far as I'm concerned, he's right there with Aikman, one of the best when it comes to color. For now, J.J. Watt will replace Tony Romo on the top NFL broadcasting team at CBS. This, we know. It's official. Then we have to find out some of the questions we had yesterday. Who initiated Romo's leave? Is this a CBS thing, or did Romo ask for it? That'll be a big one. Did he ask for it to go get help, kind of thing, a la Tiger Woods? Sounds like it's CBS. And the current signs point to Romo having a steep uphill climb to stick around, punctuated by that "until further notice" memo, which a lot of people are intelligently, I think, speculating. Again, fill the void. If this was a Tony Romo initiated leave, CBS would have, for PR purposes, included, "We support Tony. We're on his team. We hope this works out for him," without committing to it. They didn't do nothing. So a lot of people are saying this is all CBS. They haven't been thrilled with Romo. He was great when he started. They had to drag him in after a few seasons and go, "You're not Tony Romo anymore." He got better. He's always had that frat boy thing. And now the elephant in the room for CBS and Romo comes from he's got 4 years left on his deal at $72 million. CBS could try to terminate the agreement with cause. That brings up a legal battle, and then it's public, and then could they just settle? Look, we owe you $72 million. We'll give you half, Tony. Go away. Point being, the trending thought is Romo's done for good on CBS. That's the trending thought. It's not an announcement. It's not in any way even somewhat confirmed. The job will go to one or two people according to every source that's out there. Watt, who's getting his tryout, essentially. J.J. Watt, he's already been doing color, but now he gets to work with Jim Nantz. And Greg Olson's the other name. End of list. Will they call Greg Olson now? Will they wait to see what Olson does? What Watt does, but that's the latest on whatever's going on with Tony Romo.
And they've put JJ in there temporarily, to see how things go as they've negotiate for Greg Olson and bring him over. And
That
if
would be
they're
smart.
able, it's one of those, look, we're going after Olson, and that would be the best thing they could do. And if they can reach an agreement, great. And then they keep Watt doing what he's doing. If they can't reach it, then they didn't do anything. They just, look, we're rewarding JJ for the work he's done, and we're test driving him and seeing if he can do it. And this, as you're reading that, this became much more of how do we get out of the Tony Romo? Oh, here he gave us one. He gave us our shot to get out of the contract. And all I kept thinking in the back of my head was Fox going, come on, NFL. You have to at some point say that Tom Brady is a conflict with being an owner and all these other things. You got to give us this out so we can get rid of Tom Brady's contract. And what are we at now? 8 years still remaining on the contract, something like that.
Yeah.
But if the NFL never gives them that opportunity, they're stuck.
It's not like there isn't a bevy of people you can turn to. The problem is, can they do the job? And I hadn't even thought about this from the Fox angle. If they let Greg Olson get away, who does Fox have? They have Brady, which sucks, and you lose clearly the one of the best in Olson. And it's not as easy as saying, "Hey, who's retired? We're just going to put you in the booth." Tom Brady showed it's not that easy. No matter how good you were, it was that easy with Troy Aikman. But there are all sorts of these dominoes that start to fall, and I start to think about it from a fan. Nance and Greg Olson, that's a hell of a pair. Poor Tirico, he's being wasted on Collinsworth. Al Michaels wasted on Herb Street, plus he's stuck on Thursday Night Football. Poor Burkhardt is stuck with Brady. It's basically Nance and Olson if that happens, and Buck and Aikman. Those are your premier broadcasting teams because of the way they've handled this. Unless I'm forgetting somebody.
I'd still like to know if, and Belichick, I think in the studio would be good. I wonder if Belichick could be a color man. It just, his knowledge and his understanding of the history of the game and all of that. I don't know who they'd go to because that's a very, very difficult job to be good at it. But you got to get somebody who's charismatic, has the stories, has the knowledge, and everything they say about Belichick, off the field and not doing interviews himself is, amazed at the amount of knowledge he has on the history of football and everything like that. And you also hear he has a great sense of humor. It just, we never see that when he was the head coach.
Well, in this North Carolina thing, oh, I mean, might be time to find a natural out for everyone. There's another group that they might be sitting where CBS is. God, we hope CBS calls Bill. Please call Bill. Please take him off our hands. Elsewhere in the NFL, the Raiders are breaking a trend by not starting Fernando Mendoza if they stick to their guns. If he does not open the season as a starter, he will become the first quarterback drafted #1 overall to enter week 1 as a backup since Baker Mayfield took a backseat for the Browns in 2018. The past 6 #1 overall quarterbacks, Cam Ward, Caleb Williams, Bryce Young, Trevor Lawrence, Joe Burrow, Kyler Murray, started in week 1 as rookies. Raiders rookie coach Clint Kubiak says, "I think you owe it to the roster to not have to play the rookie quarterback early. And the other thing is we're playing the long game," end quote. Kubiak and Raiders GM John Spytek haven't put a timetable on specifically when Mendoza might take over the starting role. We've tried to guess. Week 4, after the bye week, who knows? Week 10. Right now, Spytek used that terrible phrase, "We're committed to our process." God, I hate that phrase. They are committed to Kirk being the guy until something happens. Is that rapid development by Mendoza? Is it Cousins sucking so badly that they have to? A lot of people say Mendoza's toughest competition is just the NFL learning curve, which he's picking up. All the word is he's the superstar, quote, quote, everybody expected in terms of studying, attitude, etc. If I remember correctly, Steve, you weren't super high on Mendoza as an NFL quarterback. He might have been the best pick, but maybe I'm wrong on that. So give me an idea of where's Mendoza going in his career. And we like the way the Raiders were handling this, right?
I really like the way the Raiders are handling this. I'm hoping that Mendoza doesn't start any game this year. I would love, and it'll never happen because we see the schedule and the strength of. I would love to see Kirk Cousins lead this Raiders team to like a 9-8 season, a 10-7, like flirting with the playoffs and allowing Mendoza to sit back, watch, absorb it, adjust to the NFL lifestyle, the meetings, everything that goes with it, and give himself a chance to succeed in year 2, because I don't think they'll sit long. And we forget about Patrick Mahomes, sat that first year behind Alex Smith. Look how good Patrick Mahomes, if he had started week 1 out of college, who's to say Patrick Mahomes would be the quarterback he is today? But that's what I'd love to see. And I am not the draft guru, the scout, all that. No, I thought Mendoza was a very good quarterback, but I would like to know, okay, if depending on how this season plays out, if he had hit the draft this upcoming season, would he be the number one pick? Would he be the second quarterback, the third quarterback? Where would he fit in this class that's coming out? Where would he have been drafted if this class coming out this next season is one of the top quarterback classes that have come out? And or rolling back, where would he have been drafted when Bo Nix and these other, JJ McCarthy, okay, we can throw him out, but if you're looking at the quarterbacks that came out that year, where would he have fit there with the Caleb Williams? Is he a better prospect than Caleb Williams? Would the Bears have taken him instead, or the Giants with Jackson Dart, or where would he have fit there? And that to me is the gauge. I don't think I would rather have Caleb Williams than Mendoza. Right.
I haven't heard anybody do the rear view mirror thing, but I have heard a few people. I'm sorry, I can't cite because we're months since the draft and all that. Who did say? I heard them say. I think maybe we even talked about it. It was, and again, unprovable. There's no way to know it. But these are scouts. These are former players. These are people in the know, whatever, who said Mendoza wouldn't even be drafted in the first round based on what we knew at the time in this year's draft. I mean, there's some. Now I'm not talking about Orlovsky, who hates for whatever reason, hates Mendoza. I mean, other people who like thought it out and said, look, and I remember them saying, look, we all thought Arch Manning would blah, ... So we don't know, but if all things were to play out the way we know, Mendoza wouldn't even go in the first round in 27, is what I heard more than one person say. I don't know if we're never going to know if that's true, obviously. But to your question,
and if that's the case, the best thing he can do is to give him that chance to succeed. Sit this year out behind a veteran core. And everything I have heard and read on this is Mendoza and Cousins. This isn't a competition. Mendoza has accepted his role. Look, I'm the number one, but I need to do what I can do to become the best quarterback I can. And if it means sitting back, watching what Kirk Cousins, learning from his experience in the league, I accept that. And Cousins isn't going into it, like Brett Favre of that. Yeah, they drafted this kid and I'm not going to teach him anything. He can figure it out all on his own, to Aaron Rodgers. Cousins has been very look, I understand. I'm just the placeholder until you're ready to go. I'm going to do everything I can. It's if all of this that I hear is right, this is a great landing spot for Mendoza. The Raiders are doing this right, which is where I'd love to see Kirk Cousins, as much as I've ripped on him over the years, come out and just have an outstanding season and play the whole year and give Raider fans something to root for. And then knowing that when Kirk Cousins is done and even Mendoza's ready next year, well, then the Raiders are going to get something for Kirk Cousins, because next year there's going to be 6-8 teams sitting there going, what are we going to do at quarterback? Maybe we need to trade for Kirk Cousins, and the Raiders can get something for him.
I'm paraphrasing here, but I know I'm close. In terms of the public face, they continue to present it beautifully. And Francisco Mendoza's quote, which I don't have in this story, which I thought I did, was something like, I'm not competing to win the starting role. We're competing to win games.
Yes.
Whoa, that's great. And yes, all indications are, even no matter what, these two are like best friends, like cousins. Where is Cousins? I felt like, Cousins, when he broke into the NFL as a 4th round pick in 2012, had a 10-year veteran, Rex Grossman, whose resume included playing in the Super Bowl with the Bears. Cousins says, I felt like I needed to ask him everything I possibly could, to the point of being annoying. I felt like having someone like that made a big difference for me in my career, and that's who I am to Francisco.
Yes.
They're going out, they're doing commercials together. That's like a big kumbaya thing, the way they're handling this. I agree. The way they're doing it is great. And you're right. It'll never happen. No one will lead that team to 9-8. But it should be interesting if he's a little better. If the Raiders are a little better, what do they do? Where do they squeeze him in? Or do they, like you said, let him sit, baby? Just let him sit and learn. And he's got all these comments about things he's already learning. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I would just let him sit. Even if they go out and they go 3-14, let him sit because now I'm getting a very high draft pick next year. And he knows he's taking over this team next year. Just sit back, adjust to the NFL, absorb and learn as much knowledge as you can. And next year is your opportunity. Don't worry about this year because if we're as bad as we think we're going to be, then let's get that top draft pick to give you yet another weapon to allow this team to get better.
Mendoza says that after the first week of practices, when he seemed poised enough, that he spent the next few weeks working with quarterbacks coach Mike Sullivan and Kirk Cousins to review every single snap from OTAs, rated components such as timing, footwork, progression, reads, and accuracy. Mendoza says, quote, through all of that, I was able to see common themes, common mishaps I would miss on certain concepts. I was able to reflect on them throughout this summer. Kirk was such a huge help, showing me that when I feel urges come up, I'm able to kill them and make the right play. Which that is the essence for a lot of these rookies, right? Is we know about the speed. Everybody hears about the speed. The NFL is 100,000 times faster than college football, and it's nuts. But also that inkling of that rookie quarterback who's never played in the NFL. I want to do this. I want to hit this play. I want to throw the bomb. And here comes Kirk Cousins and go, dude, why don't you do this? And Mendoza is receptive to it, going, well, yeah, why don't I just do that? That is all we need. Or that could turn into something big. All indications are, as you said, it's a good start in Vegas. Can't go down.
My question we'll never know an answer to because it's pure speculation.
The theme.
Has Fernando Mendoza done more film study and received better advice so far in his career right now than Kyler Murray has in his entire NFL career? Because he's studying film and everything else. Where Kyler Murray, it's just athletic ability. My ability, look, pass rush comes in, I can outrun everybody on the field. I got an arm. And he just plays backyard football or street football, whatever you want to call it, like all the time. And that's his game. So just curious who's watched more film in their careers at this point.
Couple quick notes. As predicted by everyone, we can't take credit for it. Denver Broncos coach Sean Payton has says he will be talking to free agent Taysom Hill to gauge his interest in continuing his career, and then they'll, quote, go from there. Of course, Taysom Hill spent 9 years with the Saints, 5 with Sean Payton, and the Saints didn't re-sign him. And Sean Payton is like the Taysom Hill whisperer. Like, he's the only coach that would know how to use him. So yeah, he's going to talk him. Does he have a place in Denver?
I don't really think he does. If he did, I think Sean Payton wouldn't be waiting until, Drew Brees' speech or whatever it is that they got coming up because he's like, I'll see him in 5 days. We'll discuss it at. If he had a spot, he would have reached out immediately and said, hey, look, come on in. Let's get this that way. In 5 days, we can be signing this contract.
One more note, safety Kobe Bryant was the Chicago Bears marquee free agent addition this offseason, and he is out 8 to 10 weeks after injuring his left knee yesterday during one-on-one drills in the first padded practice of training camp. He hyperextended his knee, sustained a bone bruise, and a small fracture. Not expected to need surgery to recover. If this was Major League Baseball, I'd say, oh, he's definitely getting surgery. But how big of a loss for the Bears?
I think it is. This was, as you said, their prime free agent they brought in. He's out 8 to 10 weeks, which means he's probably going to miss the first 3 to 4 weeks of the season. And there's still plenty of football back, but this is one of those. And I just, the so many things went right with the Bears last year and their comeback wins in the last 2 minutes and all that. We saw it 2 years ago with the Commanders. This is one of the reasons, and I'm not blaming it on this injury, but this is one of those things that where I felt going into this season that the Bears are going to take that step backwards, just as we saw the Commanders do last year. And unfortunately, they're already one of their top free agents they brought in a position of need is already now going to miss the first 3 or 4 weeks of the season. It's a tough break for the Bears, but I think, this is one of those things that, not saying I predicted it, but things like this seem to happen to those teams that have a lot of things go their way one year because the law of averages catches up and then bad things tend to happen the next year.
A lot more post-trade deadline baseball after this.
Rob and Steve continue next, only on the radnetwork.com.
first time Corey walked into my home, I came around the corner, extended my right hand to shake it, and said to him, "Wow, you're big." And that would be Corey from quickdumpsters.com. Quick is spelled wrong intentionally. Quick, Q-U-I-K dumpsters.com. That's quickdumpsters.com. Corey's yet another maggot launching his own locally owned and operated business, and boy, did I need him, and really we all do. Things pile up, you get frustrated, you keep saying, "We need to make a dump run." Pretty soon it's more than a dump run, and now you need to rent a truck or have one of those ugly upside down box cars parked in front of your house that you fill up yourself. Or you do like I did, you call Corey at quickdumpsters.com. In my case, my house had fallen into complete disarray as my late wife Christina had lost her 2-year battle with congestive heart failure, and amongst the many things left were gathering her things and finding what to donate and what had to just go in that pile of stuff where we were both going, why did we ever buy this? And it all could have been so overwhelming had Corey not just walked in, taken charge, and removed dozens of boxes of total junk, unusable dog kennels, desks that were falling apart, a worthless old smoker that couldn't be fixed, bag after bag of crap, and I can't remember what else. He was quick, spelled wrong, Q-U-I-K, quiet and clean. Well, he wasn't clean. I mean, he was. But I'm not commenting on his hygiene. I meant that his work was clean. He swept everything when he was done, and the house looked like he'd never even been there. Corey's the real deal, and I couldn't be more proud and happy to call him a brand new advertiser. His story's incredible, his dedication unmatched, and his motivation to succeed larger than he is, and that's saying something. Quotes are free. You don't even have to have them over to your house. Just send him some pics or videos, and you'll get your price, schedule your day and time, and watch someone else get that junk out of your house. Go to quickdumpsters.com. Quick, Q-U-I-K, dumpsters.com. Quick, Q-U-I-K, dumpsters.com. Longtime maggots will remember Greg from MAP, M-A-P, as in Maximum Athletic Performance, which guides you to better output through better ingredients, also known as nutrition. Greg has been on the Rad Show many times and will be again, as he simplifies nutrition and helps us all understand what actually works when it comes to fueling our bodies, almost all of which can be found at maptrition.com. Every product is formulated with clinical precision and backed by science and purpose, and maptrition.com has something for every fitness level, even those of us who barely have a fitness level. With nearly 20 years as a nutritionist and a specialization in sports nutrition, Greg works with athletes and everyday individuals to optimize performance, energy, and overall health through smarter fueling strategies, all of which starts at maptrition.com. At the very least, we should all be taking daily multivitamins, and Greg has his formulated for exactly what a man or woman's body needs. Protein is in, but maybe instead of getting yours from mac and cheese with extra protein, you get it from maptrition.com. And of course, all things workout, training, and exercise are available as well. From pre-workout to creatine and other muscle builders to recovery supplements and more, all at maptrition.com. From morning breakfast essentials to post-workout recovery and everything in between, maptrition.com's full range of supplements, proteins, and wellness products are built to power your journey from start to finish. Check out all the products and find what's right for you and order it shipped to you all at maptrition.com. That's maptrition.com.
Just like you, they dreamt of hitting the game-winning homer to win the World Series. And just like you, well, you know. Once again, here's Rob and Steve on the Rad Network.
All right, back to Major League Baseball trade deadline yesterday. We were here the whole time until 3 p.m., and a lot of people, we went through the losers and the winners. A lot of people say the Brewers lost and the Braves lost. They just didn't do enough to improve. And I asked Steve, the Phillies, they got lumped in there, but Steve said the A's might be the big losers from the trade deadline. A lot of these teams that didn't do much got lumped in the middle, but not everybody missed this. The Athletics were on the sidelines. The organization continues building in anticipation of the 2028 relocation to Vegas. So they kept recently extended starters like Jacob Wilson and Tyler Soderstrom off the market, as well as promising rookies Henry Bolte, Gage Jump, and Joshua Grouter. I wouldn't have traded any of them either as an A's fan. They should all at least be part of the evaluation moving forward. Soderstrom's one of the big three. I keep saying this. We all know it. It's Soderstrom, Langeliers, and Nick Kurtz. Those are the three. Those are the foundation of the 2028 Vegas A's. None of them were going anywhere. Langoliers, people argue if he hadn't gotten hurt, and it's one of those things we'll never know. He could have obviously given them a huge haul, a haul similar to what the Red Sox paid or bigger for we'll never know. We'll never know. So the team basically did nothing. It had no healthy, valuable players to put on the trade block, they felt. They have 2 pending free agents, left-handed pitcher Jeffrey Springs and journeyman second baseman Jeff McNeil, who's actually a lot more valuable to the A's than he's going to be to anyone else just because of his clubhouse stuff. They could have made more of an impact if Langoliers was available. He wasn't, so they just kind of sat around and did nothing, feeling like they didn't have, this is what we're told, anything of value to trade away that would get them something of more value. Yeah, they got all these outfielders and infielders. I think they're still trying to figure out what they have. And I think the league is too in a lot of ways. I'm not justifying it. I'm not thrilled. I don't care. I'm indifferent to this whole thing. A's are out of it this year. There is no baseball next year. As a fan, I'm like, whatever. But we have to analyze and such. What did you want to see him do, Steve? If we do accept there's probably not going to be a lot of baseball next year, if any, what should the A's really have done at this trade deadline with everything going on with them?
Move Jeff McNeil at second base. I think they could have gotten something, even if it's a guy at like single A, guy who throws upper 90s, just anything. I would not be re-signing him. I believe his contract's up at the end of the year. You have too many infielders there. Kuroda Grauer, is he going to be your second baseman? Or are you moving Jake, Wilson over to second base? What are you doing there? McNeil doesn't fit. Get some value. Get something from Jeffrey Springs. I don't think you were getting anything for him. But you said something to the extent of the A's are still evaluating their talent and trying to figure out where they all fit. You're the GM, you're the scouting director, you're the player development. If you don't have a clue and a vision of how you're going to proceed and who fits into that and who does not, Geloff, White, which one's your third baseman? Well, we need more time to fully evaluate. Then what are you doing with your player development and your GM? You have to know these things. I think they could have, look, Geloff's our third baseman. Move White right now. His stock is pretty high. Is Bolte, are you committing to him in center field? If so, what are you doing with Butler? What are you doing with some of these other guys? Well, we got to see. That to me says you're incompetent and you really are in over your heads if you don't have a clear direction of where you want to go. And that's why I give them the F. They should know who they want. They should already be able to tell you right now who their starting lineup is in 2028 from the system that they have. Those are the players you protect unless you get that. Well, it's pretty close between, Rooker, Butler, Bolte. Well, go see what the trade value is. If they're that close, move one or two of them to go get some pitching or something. And then the most valuable parts that you can get the most in return. And if you're like, I don't know which one, they're all close. Well, then keep the other one and put them in that position. But now you've strengthened your farm system. You've added strength to the team. And to say, we don't really know, we're still evaluating, and we don't know what our lineup in 2028 should be. Every team should know what their lineup is in 2028 and 2030 right now, based on who they have and what they haven't, and things can change as things go on. But you got to have the vision. If they don't have the vision, I'd be firing that front office right now.
It's so easy with the A's in particular and John Fisher's a horrible owner, probably the worst, certainly in baseball. I think I'd have to see a list. And the Vegas thing, and to just kind of harp on that as well. This is why it may be part of it, but honestly, look at this team. Look at the A's pitching. What about the A's pitching staff makes us believe that they're really, really good at scouting and evaluating? Nothing. Nothing. I genuinely believe as an A's fan that the A's and their organization are lost on a lot of these things. And I also think they're swimming in this land of, it's not euphoria. It's not rose-colored glasses. It's positivity. Everybody's great. Oh, we have this great energy. We have these great players. It doesn't seem to be just a vibe they're putting out. They all like each other. They all get along. They're all fairly young. They're all hip. This includes the announcing team. This includes the field team that I meet with occasionally out here in Sacramento, the PR team, etc. They're all kind of sort of like, woo, well, we can't get rid of him. Blah, blah. As a fan, I can look at it. You brought up Henry Bolte, this guy, woo, big outfielder, big prospect. Okay, where's the power? He was supposed to be a 30 home run guy. He's hit 3, 2 of them were in Vegas when the A's were there, and the other one was in Sac. Where's the power? I can hit home runs in Sac in Vegas, maybe. I mean, I can what about Carlos Cortez? My God, this poor guy. He's just like, I have no job, but I'm actually pretty talented. I, as a fan, can look at it and make better judgments than, well, the non-judgments that are being made. So I get the frustration, and I get, in your case, the I don't get it scenario. I don't know why they're not trading away everything except the 3 I mentioned for the future.
Yeah, you're building for 2028. You can go get that single A player that has some promise. You can get something, and to not have a vision and know who can play and who can't. I understand that, Rob, who would you rather have, Rooker, Bolte? Who's the better long-term fit? Blah, 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 blah. I get if you and I can't sit down. They've been in the system. They've been scouting them. They know everything about them. They know what they do on the field, off the field, how they fit with their teammates, how they project going forward. I mean, is Bolte just suddenly lost his power swing? And if so, what's it going to take to get it back? Or was it his numbers were inflated because he was playing in the Pacific Coast League and he was playing in all these hitter-friendly ballparks? And you're like, look, yeah, he had the power, but we really know most of his fly balls are 380 feet, and it's not going to transition into home runs in the major league level. Move him on, because you can sell him as a power hitter who's really never going to fully develop. That's what player development, your scouts, and that's the part that I get on. And everybody talks about, oh, the Dodgers and their money. Well, the Dodgers have the best player development outside of the Brewers and the Rays in all of baseball. And that's not a large market team. The A's, if they had the ownership and put people in charge of baseball to do this, they should be investing in this so they can answer every single thing. If I'm asking it, I'm a huge sports fan who's had the fortune to work 40 years in a sportsbook business and be around sports, but they have to be far more knowledgeable than I am to get that front office job. And if I'm asking these questions, how are they not already knowing the answers? And if they can't, and my knowledge comes even anything close to theirs, they should have been fired for being incompetent. Because like I said, I'd be a terrible GM or any of this on these teams because I'm too reactionary in those senses.
By the way, I'm not anti Henry. Is it Henry Bolte? Whatever Bolte's first name is. I would just Steve threw the name out. And this is not a defense of the A's because of what Steve said. Scouting systems, they should all be talking enough. So someone in that system knew that Kurata Grauer was good enough to call up. It sure seems like nobody knew how good he was going to be when he got there. Yeah, he's hurt now. He's getting 3 or 4 hits a game, and I think that made a lot of people go, wait a minute, do we need to evaluate more? Which is not a defense. It's like, guys, figure it out. This is the best problem in the world to have. And I just think there's some of that going on with the A's. I do want to jump to the Giants, though, in the interest of time. By the time the dust settled yesterday, the Giants had traded away 3 pending free agents: Arias, Robbie Ray, Tyler Mahle. 3 controllable players: Heliot Ramos, and Eric Miller and Caleb Killian, and a prospect, Carlos Gutierrez, for a haul of 8 young players, including 5 pitchers. The exodus did not include Chapman, Willie Adames, Devers, Logan Webb, which means the Giants maybe aren't in full teardown mode, but it's a drastic retooling. Let's go to Buster Posey. What did he say? Quote, I wouldn't necessarily say it's a rebuild. Obviously, we moved 6 major league players off of our roster. The message is we're not satisfied. Well, you shouldn't be with the way we've played this year. We're trying everything we can. Posey said he was particularly excited to land 20-year-old Ramon Marquez from the Phillies, a right-handed pitcher who is now San Francisco's number 7 prospect, ranked as Phillies' number 4 prospect with a 1.68 ERA, 93 strikeouts, 59 innings in single A. Okay. Despite Monday's sell-off, Posey said he's confident the flurry of moves will ultimately set the Giants up to return to prominence in the next couple years. They must really see something in this Marquez guy to be touting him at single A numbers. What did you think of the Giants overall? They did part of what you said they needed to do.
Yeah, but their hands are tied with the contracts of Devers, Adamas. What do they do? And it's eating up so much money. I mean, you take Eldridge, and they put themselves in this, and we've discussed it. Their best prospect, Bryce Eldridge, he's a first baseman. Okay, well, what are you doing with Devers? What do is he going to play first base? Is he going to go to DH? We know he's not happy at DH, but he can't play third because you got Chapman. So you have this stockpile of heavy invested money in positions that you have. Where's Casey Schmidt fit? I think Casey Schmidt should be your third baseman going forward, but you can't because you got 100 million tied up in Chapman. So what are you doing there? I would play Eldridge at first. I'd put Casey Schmidt at third, and I would DH Devers. And sorry, Chapman, but you'd be out. But they can't do it because of the money they have invested. And that's the problem I have with the Giants is they have 3 contracts that they cannot move for anything. And unfortunately, in a sense, 2 of the 3 play the same position and or tied to their best prospect. The trading the relief pitcher for Marcelo Mayer, great pickup. And even if he doesn't fill out, it's middle relief. They're a dime a dozen. You get a shot at him. Maybe you can get his head straight. Maybe he now goes, oh, look, I really got to work at this thing because even though I thought I was a top prospect, well, my time ran out fast because I didn't produce. And maybe he's motivated to then produce and he becomes a second baseman. And they go, look at that. We have him now that fits here. We got Casey Schmidt there. That's how you rebuild. But you can't do it with those 3 they have to move one of them somewhere at the minimum. It'd be nice if they could move all 3. But you know what, Buster? You gave out those contracts and or traded for them, so you're stuck with it. And I don't think you're ever going to compete as long as you're still under those contracts.
And based on what we heard and read yesterday, they will be stuck with those contracts when the CBA is negotiated because all contracts that exist now are grandfathered in. Well, that's great news for some people who have locked players up. Not so great news if you're the Giants. No matter what happens with negotiating, because of the bylaws of MLB, they're stuck with those 3 or 4 that you mentioned. Now, we need to update our list, Steve, the Rob and Steve list. We had previously said we don't care about math. Obviously, there's no way the Rockies, the Mets, and the Giants are going to the playoffs in the National League. I said the Reds many weeks ago. We have not agreed yet. Angels, A's, Royals, we kicked them out. Now, officially, this is the official thing, Steve. You're with me on the Reds now, right?
I believe I was with you on the Reds in the last one that we did. The Padres was the team that we did not agree on.
Now, okay, so the Reds, I'm going to stay in the National League. They're 6 back from the wild card. Now, what about the Nationals? Many weeks ago, you were like, now they're 5.5 back. They're out, right? Nationals aren't going in.
They're gone. They traded their best pitcher in Foster Griffin to the Guardians because he was going to be a free agent at the end of the year, and they knew they couldn't sign him, even though they're right there. I mean, people are getting on the Tigers. Well, the Nationals were a lot closer to making the playoffs than the Tigers possibly, and they sell off Luis Garcia Jr. and their best pitcher in Foster Griffin.
I've asked you multiple times over the last week, what is our official word? I agree with everything so far on the Cardinals.
They're done. They're out. And that's the team I've said all season long. Great first half, outperformed all expectations, made some decent moves at the trade deadline as well. But their season's over. How they've come out of the break, I think, solidified that, and they were in full seller mode, and they're not making the playoffs.
Staying in the National League yesterday, the Pirates extended their dominance over the Brewers. They beat Milwaukee 4-3 to open a 4-game series. Pittsburgh's won 6-7 against the Brewers. Pirates starter Bubba Chandler held the Brewers without a hit until the fifth. He allowed 4 hits, 3 runs over 5 2/3 innings. And the Pirates, who we have an emotional desire, we want to see them get there, Steve. They are 3.5 back. They got to go through the Marlins and the Padres. The Pirates made some moves. Are we? I want to keep the Pirates in, and I know part of that's my emotional bias. I think they have a legitimate reason to still be fighting for a wild card spot. Are you going to talk me out of that?
No, I think they do. My hope for them kind of fades a little bit here and there. They went out, they picked up Luke Weaver, who was the best relief pitcher available at the trade deadline to solidify, and they picked up another relief pitcher, I believe, as well. So I think they did the little things, but this is what you expect from the small markets. They weren't going to mortgage everything and go all in, even though the media might say that's what they really need to do. And I'd love to see the Pirates make it because their fan base deserves to get a shot and see some meaningful baseball games actually even played in October for this franchise. Uh,
And
so they're still in it.
and it would be neat if the Pirates not only got in, but they were competitive. Maybe they even win the first
Oh, it'd be
series.
great if they found a way to win the first series. Don't know who it's against, but it'd be great if they did.
Now, logic would dictate that if we say, okay, Pirates are still in, then everybody ahead of them is still in. But is that true? The Marlins, are we keeping them? The Marlins are only 2 back. Are we keeping them competitive? I'm not sure they're competitive for the postseason this season. I'm not saying you have to throw them out. I just don't know.
I am
Wait and see.
really close. If they weren't 2 games, I don't think the Marlins are going to make the playoffs. So that's where my hesitant. I don't think they are, but I see them at 2 games out. I think the Padres, and I like the Robbie Ray and the Casey Mize. If they keep throwing the ball the way they have, Robbie Ray the last 7, 8 starts, Casey Mize the way he has the first half. I sorry to say this for the Pirates, but I think unless Paul Skeens turns into the Paul Skeens we'd seen in the past and not the Paul Skeens of this year, I think the Padres are going to take that third wild card spot even ahead of Arizona type of
So,
thing. So I don't
right.
think the Marlins make the playoffs, but I can't throw them out because of their only 2 games out.
Agreed. We'll revisit in a week. The Cubs are in big time, and then you got the Diamondbacks and the Phillies are tied, and the Padres are 2 games back. You said yesterday, as we were going through this, and then the Padres they go lights out at the trade deadline. Hey, just go through Arizona. Okay, well the Diamondbacks beat the Padres last night, 5-1 in the opener of their 10-game homestand, where they're playing nothing but NL West rivals. So this is a big 10 days for the Diamondbacks. The victory moves them 2 games ahead of the Padres in the NL wild card race. Arizona 14-6 in its last 20 games. San Diego had won 8 of its previous 9. That's 1 game. But the Diamondbacks, they're not going quietly. If you've got the Cubs, if you got the Diamondbacks, you got the Phillies, and then you got the Padres and the Pirates. There's 5 of them because we really don't believe the Marlins are going, but only 3 can get in. Cubs, Diamondbacks, Phillies, Padres, Pirate. Boy, it's hard to imagine the Padres don't get there. It really is with the moves they made yesterday.
It is, but the thing with the Diamondbacks, a nice game. I mean, Fod threw another great game yesterday, 6 2/3, didn't give up an earned run, 5 hits, 1 walk. They have a better offense right now than the Padres do. And if Fod and Eduardo Rodriguez can keep it going, uh, Rodriguez has had an outstanding season. He hasn't had a season that's been any good since like his last season with the Red Sox. So he's throwing the ball really well this year. He's turned from the power pitcher into a pitcher who understands what they're doing in the art of pitching, which is a great transition. Most pitchers aren't able to do that. And they beat the Padres' #1 person in King in last night's game. They got to, King early and held on, and it was a nice win by the D-backs. I still am hoping Robbie Ray and Casey Mize in that ballpark to go along with Michael King, and I got to believe the Padres lineup's going to wake up a little bit. I would take the Padres, even though they're 2 games behind the D-backs, as that third wild card team with the Phillies and the Cubs. If you were telling me to make that prediction right now, because I'm not sure Fodd's going to continue this role and or Rodriguez continue like he's pitched all season long, but they match up with those two. It's just where do they go from there? Is Merrill Kelly still going to get it done? What are they going to do as well?
Tonight, the Diamondbacks are throwing Rodriguez, 10-3, 2.48 ERA, and he's against Randy Vasquez. And the Diamondbacks, as I said, 10 games against National League West rivals. Well, somewhere in there will be the Dodgers, but also I don't know what I don't have their schedule in front of me. Giants, Rockies, whatever. This could be a time for the Diamondbacks to really put the pressure on the Padres. And then you get into that question of, well, the Phillies aren't guaranteed anything either as we look at those 5.
Yeah, and the Phillies, I am less confident in them today than I was 3 days ago with that. I'm not a fan of shifting this whole infield around. They just said, look, we want to rise to play first base. We're going to move Harper to right field. I could live with that. But shifting out that entire infield to me doesn't make sense at all. And the Diamondbacks tonight in this game with Rodriguez going against Randy Vasquez gives them advantage. Look, let's push it up to 3. Vasquez had a really good start of the season, but he has not been that good of a pitcher for the last month or so. They kind of moved him out of the starting role and moved him into that having an opener, and then he would come in and get the bulk inning reliever. So I'm curious to see with Vasquez pushed back into that rotation. Is he going to respond and be the pitcher he was in April, May, or is he going to be the mediocre at best pitcher we saw in June and July?
So let's jump to the American League. We already eliminated the Angels. Those are not teams. Those are sneezes. The Angels, the A's, and the Royals. The Blue Jays are only 4 games back, but they got to go through Tigers, Orioles, Mariners, Rangers, Twins. Blue Jays, they're only 4 games back. Do we keep them in it or no?
No, I think they're gone. I'm surprised they didn't move George Springer, but I think they're holding on to him, hoping that maybe they can sign him at what would be a little bit of a discounted contract because he's had an off year. But that's a player I expected to get moved because I believe he is a free agent at the end of the year.
By the way, see if we can remember this, I don't know, 9-10 months from now. Not a lot of people. The Blue Jays wound up right in the middle there of the trade deadline grades, and I thought they should have been way higher because of your evaluation. The Blue Jays clearly said, we know we ain't winning this year, but we were in the World Series last year, so we're doing what we need to do for next year. I thought they had a great day yesterday.
I did too. I mean, bringing in Soriano, etc. They were clearly looking at next year and down the road and accepting they're not going to compete this year. And they were the only team. And this is one of the things where the A's and these other teams, I mean, they think the trade deadline is only to help the playoff teams and everybody else and salary dumps for the teams that are underperforming. You can get some real bargains out of this and look for the future. Say, look, hey, this makes sense for us, and we'd love to have him, and I'd rather get him now because I'm going to get him cheaper now than I will in the off season. And that's the part I think many GMs make the mistake on is they're just, we're not able to unload contracts and stuff, and we're not in contention, so we'll just go golfing as opposed to sit down and trying to work the trades. Sorry, that's what I feel the A's general manager did is he just went golfing yesterday. He said, I don't even know what I got. I need another season and a half to evaluate to know what, if any of my players are any good and where they fit. So I'm just going to go golfing.
Now in the American League, we know, the Yankees, the Sox, right now the Guardians are in. And then you've got 3 teams that are 1 or 2 games back. And then you've got the Tigers and the Orioles, who are only 2.5 games back, but they're the Tigers and the Orioles, and they've got those teams to go through. Are they like the Marlins? We can't eliminate them yet. I don't think either one of them's going, but maybe they are. Because, I mean, we're not getting a wild card out of the West, but wait, we could. So to me, Orioles, Tigers have to stay in until we reevaluate. That's my opinion. What do you think?
I'm throwing both of them out. And I love what the Orioles did. They realized, look, we don't have the pitching to compete. We do not. They moved Dean Kremer on, who was another pitcher they thought was going to do something, who's done nothing for them. but they understood it, and thank you, Adley Rashman, because they were really able to help their farm system out. But I
So
don't think Baltimore or Detroit are going anywhere either.
I'll highlight them, and that's actually a perfect lead into what I wanted to do next. In terms of actual division winners, it sure seems like, for the most part, the National League, barring something dramatic, isn't it the Braves and the Dodgers and the Brewers, barring something dramatic?
Yes, I don't see that changing.
Not the same in the American League. The East, Rays, Yankees, Red Sox are only 5.5 back. I don't know. The Central, White Sox, Guardians all year, but the Twins are only 4 back. The West, we'll get to the West in a minute. You want to tell me who's going to win the East?
I still hold hope that the Yankees are still the team I think are there, but I'm not sure with what Tampa Bay has done. I don't know if the Yankees, unless they get Judge back fairly soon, and I think there was a report out today that now it's, they'd hope, hey, look, we're going to get him back. It seems more and more likely that he's not coming back. And then I asked the question of, he had a cracked rib. I mean, it's not like you can hurry up and speedily recover from that. But a cracked rib and you're out 4, 5, 6 months, that just seems excessive if that's really what the injury is. So I think the Yankees, but the Rays and the Red Sox, Craig Breslow has to believe that they can win this division, or he wouldn't have done what he did at the break, outside of trying to save his job. So I'll mortgage everything from this franchise, and when they fire me, they can go back to being a bad team. That Central Division, the White Sox, I hope can hold on. The Twins, though, surprised me because the Twins went into buyer's mode. They had said they were going to do it. I didn't believe it because that's not how they work. But Joe Ryan's still there. Jeffers is still there. They went out and they acquired more help in the bullpen, etc. The Twins really did go into buyer's mode, and I hope that helped. And I think that'll help keep them in that race with the Guardians and the White Sox for that division.
And I got to tell you, in the East right now, if I was seeding it, I would have the Yankees third. I would go Rays, Red Sox, Yankees right now. They're all making the playoffs, but it's sure. And we had that report earlier when people were grading the Yankees trade deadline. The Yankees aren't saying publicly what they're thinking, which is we ain't getting Judge back. And I mean, really, Bellinger is the great white hope, because who knows what's going on with Giancarlo Stanton? That thing seems to be perennial. The Central White Sox guard, I still don't believe in the Twins. I don't believe in the Twins. I'm not going to believe in the Twins. The West, Steve. Now, before we get to the West specifically, allow me to. We've been praising baseball a lot lately. ABS, shorter games, replays. It seems like they're doing so many things right. I hate, and this is not new, I've hated it forever, the fact that they are screwing up the end of the season. And look no further than the American League West. It used to be you would play your last 10 games against your division. The Mariners should be playing the A's. The Astros should be playing the Rangers. The Rangers should be playing, or the Angels should be playing the other. That's not how it shakes out. And I know that because when I went to the West, I wonder, is this going to come down to the last 2 weeks? Because I don't know anymore. With the Astros in first by 2.5 over the Rangers and the Mariners. They're all in it. Technically, they're all in the wild card as well. I'm not sure that's going to pan out. And when you start to look at the last couple weeks, well, the Astros will finish the season as they should. At Seattle, at the A's. That's how they should finish. They will have part of their destiny in their own control. The Rangers will finish against the Mets and the Twins. That's stupid. The Mariners will finish. Okay, they'll finish against the Angels. Good. They'll host the Angels. That's a plus for the Mariners. They do play 2 with Houston before that, and prior to that, Colorado. So I hate that everybody isn't playing the rivalries. That's just a bitch. In the West, I think yesterday you said the Astros by default, or by, I don't know. Is that where we are? Is it like, you got to pick, I'll take the Astros?
I still think the Astros are coming, and Mariners should be my pick. They really should. They just continue to let me down. I'm hoping that moving on from Castillo now says, look, we got 5 starting pitchers. This is what we're going with. It's no more of this 6, and you're going to throw a bulk game here and relief and just let them concentrate on that. Uh, Ward picking them up. I question that because now they have 2 left fielders, and neither one's very good defensively. They're going to throw one out and right. And then I feel bad for Rodriguez because he's the only outfielder in that Mariners outfield that can catch a ball and has some range defensively. Uh, but I agree with you on the way the seasons. Wouldn't it be a shame if it came down to the Mets or the Rockies determine who the winner of the AL West is? That should never happen. And that's one of the complaints I have. They went to the unbalanced schedule many years ago where they're playing in their division like 18 games, which was great. The problem was is you take the AL East or say the National League East or one of these divisions, and they beat each other up. So it became much more difficult for them to have a wild card team because they were playing each other, which was stronger, you know, strengths from these teams. But that's probably my biggest complaint with how they do the interleague games now is no American League division should be settled by who they're playing out of the National League. I mean, can you imagine if you got to finish up with the Dodgers and the Braves and you're an American League team and this is what knocks you out of the playoffs? That's just not fair. So they should not play the last 2 to 3 weeks. They should never play any interleague games at all. At least try to keep it within, their league.
Fine. I mean, if that's the only compromise I'm offered, I would take that. I don't think they should be playing out of their division. But Blue Jays, for what it's worth, went out and beat the Astros. Giants went out and beat the Rangers. And so let's look at tonight. Couple of things worth noting. How about those Dodgers? The game is nationally televised. It's on TBS, 5 o'clock on the West Coast. The Dodgers are at the Cubs. What matters is it's Tariq Skubal's debut in Chicago.
And I'm looking forward to see what happens here. Dodgers riding a 4-game losing streak. Robleski went out and got beat last night by the Cubs, gave it up early. Just what happens in Dodger Town if Skubal goes out tonight and gets beat by Assad? I mean, what's going to happen there? Oh, the Dodgers, they won the World Series. Oh, whoa, hold it a second. They just went and got beat by the Cubs tonight. And Assad, a pitcher that most people don't even know who this pitcher is. I'd love to see it. As you know, I love the chaos, but I'm curious to see how comfortable and ready, is Skubal going to be jacked up and just, so much emotion and and just really that he's overthrown his pitches. Is he just going to go, look, he's a professional and just go out there and just do what he's done for the last 4 seasons and just be the dominant and best pitcher in baseball?
Yeah, you're not suggesting Tariq Skubal's human, are you? That would be ridiculous. I mean, the series involves your team. The Red Sox are, by the way, have they gotten any better at home? They have to have. They've gotten better at everything. Do they actually have a winning record at home?
No, they're 25 and 29. They're still 4 games below 500.
All right. Well, they are hosting the Chicago White Sox. Hello. What a matchup at Fenway. Davis Martin and Patrick Sandoval were the announced starters.
Yeah, looking forward to see how the Red Sox continue here. Are they able to win at home? They've been playing a little bit better. I think at one point, I think they were like 20 games below 500 at home. So they're only 4 games below now. So they have been playing better. Patrick Sandoval, one of those pitchers that people love to watch. And he hits the analytics portion and he's really good. He's never been consistently any good. So I still am hesitant on him. Martin, he the first half of the season, he was in the Cy Young talk. I think at one point he was something like 8-1 or something crazy. He had been pitching great outside of, I think, like one start through his first 10. He'd given up more than 3 runs and then but he has not been the same as of late. In his last 3 outings, his ERA is a little over 5. So it's one of those, he's putting in the innings, he's getting a little tired. And this is where the White Sox had to go out. Even though he's not having a good year in Castillo, they need to get someone who can log some innings and help this young staff with Schultz and Martin, etc., give them a little veteran leadership and take a little pressure off of them. Nobody expected them to be here, and yet here they are. It's been a great season for them, and I hope they just don't run out of gas too fast.
5 o'clock on TBS if you want to watch the Scoo Bowl game and see if he's human. See if he just, or does he be Tariq Scooble? We'll be back tomorrow. Have a great day.
This has been a presentation of the Rob and Steve Sports Show, brought to you by the Rad Network and is copyrighted by the radnetwork.com and Williams Broadcasting for the private use of our audience. Any reproduction, accounts, or descriptions of whatever Rob and Steve just talked about without the express permission of the Rad Network, Williams Broadcasting, and Rob's really mean lawyers is prohibited. So don't do